to Insights from the Couch. We've got a great episode for you today with very special guests. Last week, you heard us talking about the emotional interior lives of men. And today, you're going to get the real deal, the intel from live subjects that we're going to go into what men really think and feel. We have the wonderful Josh Mora and Dennis Williams with us, who are the hosts of The Back Nine, which is also a podcast for people at midlife that focuses on relationships, dating, career changes, growth, and possibility. Welcome to you both. We're thrilled to have you here.
Josh, you tricked me. I thought this was about the NFL.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's the normal guy talk. No, it's an honor to be here. We're thrilled to be with you guys and love your podcast very much.
Thank you, and likewise.
So yes.
Likewise. You're in the hot seat now. No NFL.
Bring it on.
Later.
Let's go.
Okay.
Going deep.
Let's go.
All right, so I'm going to jump right in on the relationship front. You've both been married, divorced, and are now in relationships. I want to know, and I'm sure listeners want to know from a male perspective, what was it like to date again after being married for so long? And was dating different in the modern world than what you'd experienced on the first round?
Yeah, first of all, we were both married, each married about 18 years, 19 years or so. I found it to be extremely different, and for several reasons. Number one, when you're dating, I started dating in my mid-40s after having not dated since my mid-20s, right? So there's so much more life and so much more experience, and you're no longer dating to start your first family, right? We both have adult and grown daughters. And so the intention is different, right? That's number one. There's the idea of a destination if there is one. Second, I found for me that it was a really interesting way to get feedback on myself and who I was in my mid-40s at the time, to be able to understand how people were seeing me and to discover what I liked and what I didn't like about relationship and what I wanted out of that relationship. So I think those were two really significant takeaways.
I had a little different experience. Mine was more that I didn't have any confidence. I thought I was washed up at 46, 47 when my stuff went down, and I didn't think I had a chance at finding anybody, or I didn't know what to do. I was like spinning. So it took me a while to realize that there was, I guess, just a lot of opportunity and a lot of people to meet, and that I wasn't washed up and I had a lot to offer. And so it was a process for me, for sure, to be able to go through that and build up the confidence. What had happened in my previous relationship kind of knocked me down. And I had to kind of lift myself up out of that and figure out how to march forward and realize that, I had a lot to offer because I'd lost it all kind of when my divorce went down.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would relate to that experience. Particularly not knowing your market value,
Yep,
exactly.
True that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sounds
Exactly.
like those next relationships helped you reclaim your value. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And then just, sort of dating and being out there for a while and just even having a couple of dates or meeting people and realizing that, you did have a lot to offer. And then also, building up, my self-confidence again and realizing, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of just a process. My next relationship after that really taught me a lot because it taught me boundaries and things that went bad in that next relationship really made me create boundaries that I had never created before coming out of that made me have non-starters in the next relationship. I think what I've done well now, and the reason why I'm engaged and with, the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, is because starting at day one, the boundaries were set. And you weren't going to cross them, right? You knew where the lines were, and she wasn't going to step. I wasn't going to step over hers, and she wasn't going to step over mine. It doesn't mean you don't compromise. There's certain deal breakers. There's certain non-starters for me now that didn't exist before, and that was a process to get there.
I think 2 points too. I think when you're at the end of a relationship, in whether it's a divorce or a breakup, nothing is good, right? I mean, very little is good. And
Right.
so you've had these stories that you've been told, and you don't know your way back to, or to what a healthy relationship looks like again, or what confident and good relationship looks like again. There may have been some good feelings, but you've gone through it, right? You're, especially after a long marriage, you're a little bit beat up, both, all the genders. So that's one. And then the second point I would make is that's part of why we started our podcast, right? Which was the idea that we knew that there were men who were out there because of the conversations that we'd been having with each other and others. We knew that there were men that were out there that were in that kind of a space where they didn't have that confidence, whether that was professional or personal or in relationships. And men especially, we tend to internalize that. To the extent that we do talk about that, we talk about that in very limited quantities and in very limited spaces. Mm-hmm. We talk about it, the metaphor of the back nine obviously is a golf metaphor. It's not a golf podcast, although we both play. The idea is that, when guys talk about that, it's after we've been together for 4 hours, like on a golf course, having a beer or a soft drink afterwards, where one of us might say, are you still dating that, brunette? Are you, tell me about that investment that you're in, or what's going on with your business. And we tend to open up that way. And so we found that to be healthy, and we wanted to be able to provide that for an audience that we felt and were confirmed that it's out there.
It sounds like you really learned a lot from dating after divorce, both of you. And I love the idea
Absolutely.
of having a mindfulness about what a healthy relationship is, right? The experience gives you more insight into what you want and don't want. I'm just curious, this is just occurring to me off the cuff, but what do you wish women knew, or what would be helpful for women to know about what men are thinking or dealing with? Because men aren't always as vulnerable. Women tend to talk about feelings more. I know I'm generalizing, but I think there's truth. What might women know about men as they're dating?
That's such a good question.
What
is it for you?
Well, I had one word that was at the top of my dating profile because of, maybe it was just because of everything that I had been through too, was authentic. I think all we look for is, for me personally, all I was looking for was authenticity. Be who you say you are. Be who you say you are in your profile. Be who you say you are in front of me. Just be authentic. That was the most important word for me, and still is to this day. So if I was going to tell women out there, and this goes for both sexes, is be authentic. So there's so much phoniness out there, whether you're on a dating profile and making stuff up, or you're doing that anyway, you're trying to be something you're not. For me, again, I didn't have time for the BS,
bullshit.
And I just wanted to, the bullshit. I didn't have time for the bullshit. I just wanted an authentic person who was exactly what they said they were.
I think my response to that would be there's probably not one thing that's universal for all guys, right? Guys are at different stages of their development, of being healed, of being secure in who they are. There are plenty of broken guys out there, as there are broken women out there. But I echo what Dennis said. I would also add that most guys just don't want to have to guess what our partner or what the woman that we're dating is thinking. Most of us want to do well by the women that we're dating. That communication, that transparency, I think that's really important. And it helps us see who is operating inside our boundaries and who is operating outside of our boundaries. So that's one. And then the other is, I think it's important at this time in dating to be able to have fun, right? Start with that. Start without it necessarily having to be a destination. If we're just about enjoying each other's company and paying attention to what it is that is authentic to each of us, we're going to determine pretty quickly how long we want to stay in a relationship and when it's time to exit if we need to.
And one other thing, I want to know your credit score too.
I know you talked about this before.
He does. Right.
Me too. I am obsessed with my credit score and very proud of it. So I'm with you, Dennis.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
So
Let me ask this though. It's you guys being in multiple relationships, do you find that there are these core bits that were problems in earlier relationships that trend forwards, that you get continuous pieces of feedback about yourself? So the thing that your first wife might have said, you hear again. I mean, we're woo. Or wherever you go, there you are as soon as you show up. Or these totally new relationships with totally new dynamics, and you feel like you're different in them.
Well, if we've done the work as individuals, we shouldn't get that same feedback. If we're getting that same feedback, it would suggest to me, well, we've still got a little bit more, or I've still got a little bit more work to do. And, Yeah, there were a couple that ended before that I was kind of ready for them to end, and I had to be able to look at myself, and this is true with my marriage as well. As soon as my marriage ended, I said, look, how much of this because when we start out, nobody anticipates divorce, nobody wants that, right? We're in it for life. So something doesn't work out along the way. What is that? And whether I'm responsible in that for some of it. I would argue in my marriage that it was way less than half. But whether that's a joke, but serious, but a joke. But whether I'm responsible, whether I'm responsible for 2% or 22% or 42%, whatever that percentage is, I need to own that and understand how I can be better in the next one. And so I took that on right away. Was how can I be better in my next long-term relationship? And I've done that with all of the relationships that I've cared about since. And I think that has served me well, so that there may be reasons why a relationship doesn't work out, but hopefully it's not the same one.
Yeah, and for me, I agree with that. I'll just echo that it's growth. It's trying to recognize those and have the self-awareness and emotional maturity to say, that's what I did wrong in that relationship, so I'm going to improve it here. I think that those things do happen, but some of those things weren't necessarily wrong in that relationship, even though you were told they were wrong, and they actually help your future relationship. There are things like that do matter. So I would go along those lines. I think that there's definite improvement over time. I'd say for me personally, and I would say this for any guy, the way you can improve yourself is to be a better listener. Like that's what I had to improve in my game, is to be a better listener. And that goes for dating. That goes for everything that you're doing as you're embarking on the next chapter of your life and trying to find a new partner, is be a better listener than you are a talker. And that's hard for me because I like to talk.
For a lot of
usually.
men.
Yeah, I think it's hard for everyone,
it's
right? I
hard.
mean, we're all struggle to listen deeply and actively, and especially in relationships where we get triggered so easily into feeling like we're being criticized or we're somehow not good enough, or it's commentary on us as a human being. So that's a beautiful thing, and I think that's a growth in process for everyone throughout the lifespan. But I love hearing your takeaways and how you both embraced your failed marriages as an opportunity for growth and how to be better, and really wanting to show up as the healthiest version of yourselves in your new relationships. That's just how I approached my divorce too. That, I looked at my own flaws and my own failures and how can I be better in those places so that when the right partner comes along, I'm my best self. So I have to ask though, I'm so curious, our podcast is focused on midlife and you're the back nine. So we're kind of the same audience, the same stage of life. And obviously for women, we go through hormonal changes and menopause. And for men, it's a little bit different. Have you seen a change? This is a kind of a vulnerable question, but a change in your sex drive or your appetite for sex in this phase of life? Or has that gotten better?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, I think my appetite is larger than ever. And part of that is about being with a great partner.
Yes.
And has been throughout the dating life. I think it's partly knowing myself better and having that confidence. I also think directionally it has changed. It used to be when I was not healed and when I was bringing my own traumas that are family traumas as well as personal traumas, generational family traumas, into my life and into my relationships, I was looking for that external validation. And a lot of that was what sex was about for me. I don't feel that anymore. I've done a lot of work on that. I've done a lot of work on, I have a regular meditative practice and getting quiet and getting comfortable with silence and getting comfortable with whatever anxieties or fears I have and being able to sit with them until they can go away or until I can process them correctly and properly and appropriately. And that has led to a more healthy attitude towards relationships in general and towards the sexual aspect of relationships with my partners as well.
Yeah, I'll just say that, my appetite is definitely, it's always been high, but it's not any lower now, I would say, at my age. And I don't see it dissipating anytime soon. So, and it is about finding the right partner, the person that you can be open with. And it goes back to listening and sharing and being able to talk about stuff and make sure that you're just in sync. And if you can do that, it improves all of it. Improves your interest and your drive if you are open and helping each other through the good and the bad.
And to which I would also add, it's important to have a partner who matches your energy, your desire, your approach to it. Is it always serious? Is it playful? In what ways is it playful? All of those things matter in relationships because, as you guys articulated in your episodes about sex, it is such an important point of connection that keeps a relationship healthy.
Absolutely. The playfulness. And I love what you're saying because it's being in a healthy relationship, allowing you to really connect to your own erotic life, but also being connected to yourself, knowing who you are, right? That your appetite is not diminished by this stage of life. I'm just curious before I turn it back over to you, Laura, do you find that this is true for most of your friends also? Because I do. I mean, I know I'm a couples therapist, but I do hear about a lot of men who are sexual withdrawers, right? They're not so interested in having sex with their partners, whether it's low T, something in the relationship. Do you feel like the way you feel about sex is typical among your friends?
I feel unfortunate, I think we talked about this a little bit when you guys were on with us. I just feel like my longtime married friends don't have it. Like it's lost, and I feel like all of my friends that have been able to move on. This is a terrible thing to say, but it's just reality. Have been able to have that second chapter and exploring new opportunities. It's like reinvigorated them, and they have a new life, right? So, and this isn't 100%. I certainly know some couples that still have a very, very good intimate life, but most of my friends that have been married for a long time don't really have that significantly, and it's too bad. I mean, I think that's why you guys exist. You guys can help people through that and manage that, because this isn't just about people that are divorced. I think one of the things we're trying to talk about on our show is how do we help people that are still married, because that's important. There's some people out there that I really care about, that I want them to stay married and happy, and how can we help them? And their life is tough because they're watching all their friends get divorced. It's a tough situation to be in when you are not having intimacy with your partner and you're watching all your friends' marriages go down. Like it's a fact that those people are going through too. So I have a lot of empathy for that.
I more or less agree with what Dennis said there. I think the question of why that happens is something that you guys have talked about on your podcast too, which is that, we're together. There's pre-kids, there's pre-marriage, then there's pre-kids, then there's kids. And if a couple is not communicating during the time when there are other factors and other relationships and dynamics in the couple relationship to pay attention to, such as responsibilities around kids, if you're not communicating through that time, it's real easy for people to grow apart. And the couples that I have seen that have stayed together for multiple decades and still are clearly playful and love each other in that way. I mean, who knows exactly how they are physically. They're the ones who have continued to monitor that progress and to continue to find opportunities to connect, to take long weekends, to take vacations that are just the two of them. So when they get to the point where they become empty nesters, they don't suddenly look at each other and say, "Well, who are you?" anymore. And I think most people do at least say, "Who are you?" Ask that question. The successful couples that last into multiple decades of marriage are the ones who can answer that question.
And as the outlier of the group, has been married for 24 years, coming up in
Congratulations.
October.
Yay.
Congratulations.
I'm happy to report that we are still going strong. I mean, I don't have a
Fantastic
perfect marriage, but I feel like we're holding strong, especially in the physical department. Let me ask this, just totally curious. I work with a guy, he's 58. He's at the apex of his career. And is it normal? Do you guys have a lot of friends that take testosterone and do all that? He's in incredible shape. And he says to me when he comes in, he's like, I don't even have to go on a dating site. He's like, it's so easy for me. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Because I think men, he goes, I hate to say it, but he's like, men age like fine wine and women kind of age like milk. I was like,
Oh God!
Wow.
ouch. But
Well,
it's,
he sounds like
Well,
a
it's-
colossal dick. Sorry.
He's a
Yeah.
sweetheart. I don't want to make him
Okay.
sound like a dick, but he's like, I've heard it said, and so I'm wondering, do you find that a lot of men are supplementing with stuff like testosterone, and things like that? And also, do you find that men your age that are on the back nine and dating again find themselves compatible with women their own age, or do you find that they're dating younger?
Boy, that's a lot to unpack right
Yeah.
there. I will no, it's actually really good. I will tell you this, if you listen to our very first episode, we talked to a good friend of ours, Eric Goodman, and he quotes me as saying when he was newly single, because he was single after us.
And he's
I said-
remarried now.
And he's remarried now. I said here's what you're going to find, because he was like I said at the beginning of the show, where he didn't have he had confidence, but he was like, what's going to happen? I said, you're a unicorn. I said, you are on those dating sites, you are well put together. You have your shit together. You're smart. You have money, all of it. Like you're going to have no problem. And he's like, he called me, he goes, I'm killing it. Like you just said, fish in a barrel. Like, I mean, that's literally what it was coming out of the gates for him. And that's really what it was. I mean, when I got my confidence back, it was because of that. It was because, yes, you're a guy that's in shape, in your late 40s, early 50s, late 50s, whatever. You take care of yourself. You have money now. You can talk to people. You can communicate. There's a lot. And when you see what you're kind of up against on some of those dating apps, you realize, or just out in public, you realize that, yeah, you do have a good opportunity there. In terms of the women, I think it varies. I mean, I think for me, it didn't matter how old you were. It mattered how smart you were. It mattered the intellectual match for me, because I think smart people that I know have really good sense of humor. And that's like number one on my list, was you have to be funny and understand that I say stupid stuff that's not funny to most people, but you have to think it's funny. So that's the key, right? Like for me. So it's just that vibe of communication that comes down to intelligence that doesn't necessarily have to do with age. I will say this though, we were talking about this earlier today. There's nothing wrong with people who say appearance is important to them, as long as you got the inside too. Like, I think we were brought up to think beauty's from the inside. That is true. Beauty is from the inside, but it can be on the outside too, and there's nothing wrong with that. And people shouldn't be shamed for that either. And they are sometimes. They're shamed because they want to look good and they want to get Botox and they want to do all this stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm here to say, if you're a woman and you want to look good, look good. Like, it's not just about beauty's inside and outside. For me, that's just one guy's opinion.
I agree with that. Although the beauty inside matters to me. I can't do shallow.
I wasn't saying that.
No, I know you weren't. I know you weren't. I can't do shallow, and I have a hard time, dating people who can't hold a conversation. From an age standpoint, I mean, I dated as young as probably 16, 17 years younger than I was when I was first dating.
I think you were going to say 16,
early.
17
No, that would not be.
Oh, Josh.
Even in Florida, that's frowned upon. But when I was in my late 40s, I dated into my early 30s. Age didn't matter. I had, one almost 3-year relationship with a woman who is almost 2.5 years older than I am. And my current partner is 5 years younger than I am. So it really wasn't about age so much. It's about finding that right match. What I did find was that there was, to the extent Dennis talked about guys like us maybe being unicorns, I found that there was an age range of women, because I do think a lot of guys, their first instinct is date younger, because that's what they knew, right? When they haven't dated since their late 20s, early 30s, that's immediately where they're going to go. I found that there was a group of women kind of in their early 40s that I had a lot of success with. Number one, because guys weren't dating them. They weren't getting a lot of attention. I liked it because they were women who knew what they wanted, knew who they were. I loved having the opportunity to date women who were intelligent, accomplished, comfortable with who they were. That was really important. Laura, your first question was about testosterone and creatine. And again, appearances matter for guys too, right? A lot of guys take that stuff because we need it physically, not to perform sexually, but because it helps us in all of our wellness. I mean, we were learning all about, in the early 80s, mid 90s, creatine was frowned upon, but it's now something that guys can take for all kinds of physical benefits, and women too. It's not just absolutely right. It's not just about muscular definition. There's all kinds of wellness benefits of things like that. So I do think there are people who are doing it not just for vanity, but for real reasons of physical wellness.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, just because I've had a health scare related to testosterone, is make sure that it's prescribed. Do not take it if you're just doing it on your own, because there are things that are negative about it, and it can accelerate prostate cancer. And if you haven't had your PSA check and those kinds of things for men, very, very important that testosterone is prescribed. Don't just take it, because again, it can have very negative impact on the
Interesting.
potential. If prostate cancer is in your family, it can accelerate it. So
Yeah.
that's just something that everybody
Wow.
who's listening should know that. So
That's good to know. So, on the relationship front, but moving slightly to the side here, I wonder too what your take is on the importance of male friendships at this stage of life. Because a lot of times I see men, especially as a couples therapist, who their wife has been the epicenter of their life, even if the relationship's not good, and they don't prioritize male friendships. Is that something that you two have always done, or is more recent to your divorce? And how important do you see that in the lives of men?
Well, we've been friends for almost 30 years. And yes, I think we both, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you agree with this. We both see the value of having friends that we socialize with, play golf with, watch football with, go hiking with, whatever it is. And it's, again, part of the reason why we started the Back Nine. We recognize that a lot of guys can isolate, especially when they have things that they feel ashamed about, a marriage that doesn't work out, a career that's shifting, maybe where their finances are, their relationships with their adult children. And the whole idea is we need to be talking about these things. We need to make sure that guys know they're not alone in these kinds of questions, this ennui, right, that we sometimes feel, starting in our 40s and our 50s. And it's normal and it's typical. And we want to build this community. And so the conversations that we have, we want other men to hear. We want women to hear them. And we do have a significant portion of our audience that are women. And it's not just the two of you. But people who, because women don't hear men talking about these kinds of things with other men. They hear how we present ourselves to women and maybe the things that we want from women. And so, and it's more than being a voyeur into those conversations. I think we try to architect them so that women feel that they're participating in those conversations as they hear them.
I've always thought that means I was raised by a dad who went on guys' golf trips, and then when I was old enough to go on them, I went on them. So it's been a part of my life, having male friendships. My dad's my best friend. That would never, it's
Awesome.
always been a part of my life. I was in a fraternity. I'm still really good friends with some of my fraternity brothers from college, and that was 30 plus years ago. So my golf club friends, it has been a integral part of my life forever. I would never have been the person I am without those male relationships weaved out throughout. And some of them are still, closer than others at times. But I wouldn't be the person I am today without so many, countless friendships that I've had and maintained. And, I will say this, on the Back Nine, it gets smaller. You really do realize who those really core close ones are. And that does change a little bit, but you should still have them, to all Josh's points. And then just, for me, just the release, just the time to enjoy other people and have fun and all of that too, to laugh with and play with and joke around. I mean, my fraternity brothers and I tell the same stupid stories 35 years later.
And still enjoy them, right?
Still enjoy them, yes.
And we had the last episode of our fourth season, which, as we're recording this, we're just wrapping up season 4, was someone I knew when we were 3 years old. And we were friends mostly through high school. Then as adult life happened, we kind of drifted apart. We kind of knew where each other were in life. But the conversation that we had on our podcast was the first really deep conversation we'd had in 25 years. And then it so happened that 2 weeks later, he and I were going to be in the same city in Portland, Oregon, and we got together. And, just to be able to have that, it was like, other than catching up on the details of our lives, it was like we hadn't missed a beat. And the importance of that, the significance of those relationships that are lifelong relationships, as well as those that are, that happened 3 decades ago instead of 5 decades ago, and the ones that we meet somebody new today who becomes part of our social circle. Really important to have those relationships.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because it is so important. We need connection from multiple sources. And men need connection just as much as women. And friendships are such a beautiful way to bring that into our lives. And how cool that you guys are friends for so long and do this together. And Laura and I are friends for almost 20 years. It's
Yeah.
such a
So
nice
cool.
addition to the podcasting thing to also have that friendship and that collegial respect. I appreciate you talking about that. And as we wrap up here, I just want to highlight a couple of things that I'm hearing you say in terms of our largely female audience, that what men really appreciate in a partner, authenticity, a woman who knows who she is and what she wants and communicates about that. And I think women appreciate the same thing from a male partner, right? Tell me what you need. Tell me how you feel. Let's put it all on the table. And that you both have come out of long marriages into the dating world and new relationships with a growth mindset, a desire to be really good partners. And there are men out there who do want to be in healthy relationships with substantive, real women at any age. That, you know, we all want a partner we're attracted to. It's not that looks don't matter at all. That's a bunch of bullshit, right? We're human. But it's not just the shell. It's what's inside, the intelligence, the realness, the humor, the playfulness, that we want the same things, men and women, for those of us in heterosexual relationships. And the more we can really put that out there and be ourselves, then we're going to figure out if we're compatible in dating. And just props to long-term married people like Laura, too. I can tell you as a
Yeah,
couples
for sure.
therapist, there are many people who do get to a point of stuckness where the sex life subsides, the emotional connection subsides, but it can be turned around with willingness. You don't have to get divorced to find it again, even though that's what happened to me. So I think that this is just important stuff. And for men and women to realize that I think we're all vulnerable and we all want the same stuff out of relationships.
I think
Yeah.
that's extremely articulately summarized. I'm sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
No, I'm just like so glad you guys exist because I think you're great role models for men. I mean, I know so many men that don't have male friendships and kind of rely on their wife for, that they couldn't find a friend. And so the fact that you guys are out there and coming from that growth mindset and modeling what the back nine of life could look like for other people, it's like you're really providing a roadmap of possibility.
Well, thanks for that. I mean,
Yeah.
to the extent that we're healthy, we still need our vanity fed a little bit. So thank you both for that. But
Sure.
Of course.
me more than him, for sure. But the only other thing I would add to that, because you guys did articulate that so beautifully, we both have had, each of us have had reasons to be resentful. And plenty of people that I've dated and plenty of other guys I've seen have been resentful. And it may take some time, but it's really important to be able to move past that. As we wrapped up our 4th season, one of the things we talked about is that just in the past few weeks, my ex-wife told me that she's getting remarried to a guy she's been dating for 4 or 5 years and who's been really good to our adult daughters, and took the position of, and meaning it sincerely, I'm really happy for her. And we don't have a good relationship, but it's important not to be stuck in that resentment standpoint, because that it doesn't prevent her from having that love or being happy. It only prevents me from being happy. And so I think that's important for audience men and women to be able to hear. Whatever happened in the past, do whatever you can to get healed and move on from it. Because by leaning into that, by leaning into those feelings, that's how you're going to grow out of it and find your way to healthy relationship again.
And I'll just say kudos to you guys, because it really is nice for you guys to step out of your comfort zone, which is talking one-on-one to people in offices and doing that, and share your gifts with people too, because it really is, you guys are really good at what you do, and it's awesome to listen to, and you're helping people. You've helped us already through this process, and I'm glad we've gotten to the chance to meet you guys and share this, because it is important. And what you guys are doing is really important too. So thank you for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Aw,
Well, we're
thanks,
not
guys.
beneath a little vanity
Yeah.
and approval validation either. So thank you. And I have to just say to the guy, if he's listening, who said women age like milk, fuck that. I am like a rare Napa vintage,
That's right.
wrinkles and all.
That's
I
right.
reject
I
that
love it.
summer early. But
I won't tell him about this podcast.
yes, don't. No, actually, I want him to listen.
I
No,
know.
you guys are the best. I hope you'll come on again because there's so much more we would love to talk about with you. It's just
Yeah.
been a real treat to have you on. And let's try to meet up for a drink at Parents Weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that,
I
and
feel
we're
very
gonna have
left
you guys.
out, but whatever.
Well, you'll come on down.
Come
and
on
we'll have you
down.
on. We want you on our podcast again too. The back 9 and the number 9. And we loved having you on, and we would love catching up with you again over the air,
Definitely.
digitally with us as
Definitely.
well.
We'll come on anytime. And we're going to link to the
Thanks.
back 9 in the show notes. Check out our website, insightsfromthecouch.org, for more resources. And thank you all for listening. We appreciate you. And if you liked what you heard today, and we hope you do, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time on Insights from the Couch.